This is very relevant to today. Tonight I went to go see the movie Richard Jewell. And I knew it was going to be a movie that bothered me. I could tell by the trailer, and I knew his story. By the time I saw the trailer, I had known his story for years. It was very, very tragic. It was just awful what happened to this poor guy. And so I went to go see it. Before I went, I had been reading that there was some controversy surrounding the movie because of Eastwood's portrayal of Scruggs. Was her first name Kathy, maybe? I can't remember. Kathy Scruggs. His portrayal of her, because she was the one who wrote the news article that basically turned everybody against him. She broke the story that the FBI was investigating him and just completely made his life hell, is what happened as a result of her actions. And it was pretty unethical what she did. She is not portrayed in a very positive manner in this film until maybe, towards the end. Not really quite enough to redeem her character by that point. It's too late. Damage had already been done. But anyway, so some people were upset at the way her character was portrayed. It was very strongly hinted that she traded sex for stories. And the people that worked with her said, no, there's no way. That didn't happen. I don't know. I mean, I'm so cynical of the way some reporters are, especially nowadays. It's just like the older I get, the more cynical I become. I don't know if that was the case or not. Who knows? But I do know that she died sometime later from a drug overdose. So she clearly had some issues in her life. I mean, in fact, there's a scene where she walks up to someone when she's looking for, big and scoop for the story. But there's a scene where she walks up to someone and she says something to him about, do you have something for me? Or you got something for me? Something like that. And at first I thought that it was going to show her, buying drugs. I honestly, because I knew that about her going in, that she had a drug issue. And if she had it at the time that this was happening, that definitely, or, for however many years, that, could have probably had a hand in clouding her judgment and, tainting her ethics, her ethical responsibility. So I don't know. But anyway, this movie is very frustrating. It's very relevant to today with regard to like the whole sort of cancel culture element, where something, but in the case of poor Richard Jewell, he didn't do anything wrong. He did nothing. He didn't say anything, untoward or, anything inflammatory. And he was just absolutely, I mean, his life, it's so sad to see what happened to him, and the actor who played him did a marvelous job. This guy, I've never seen him before until this movie. I think I'm hitting the camera with my chair. I'd never seen him before until this movie, and he was so good. He looked very similar to Jewell. There was a scene in the movie where they showed an actual real interview with Jewell, and I could tell that it was the real Jewell, not the actor, but the voice sounded exactly the same. So I don't know if they dubbed this actor's voice over the real Richard Jewell, or if Richard really did sound like that. And if that's the case, this dude, I swear, like, he sounds exactly like the man. Anyway, so the character of Richard is presented as like a pretty simple guy. He seems like he's a little slow, However, he's not stupid, and he's not that slow. He's just like this. He's this simple guy, and he has a great love and respect for law enforcement. He wants to be a police officer. He's he only has his mother, I don't know what happened to his father, but it's just he's living with his mother, and they have a very close relationship. And when he proves himself to be the hero that he always wanted to be at the Olympics in '96, she's so proud of him. You can just see the love on her, on her face. And then in like 3 days time, that is completely eradicated. And for the next almost 3 months, their life is just awful, awful. Reporters outside their house, the FBI bugging their place, the FBI using deceptive and unconstitutional actions against him to try to get him to admit to something or try to find out some stuff about him, like something they can use to, pin it on him. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. And it's just enough to make you're so furious. And, I've grown quite cynical about government and the media over the years. It's been a gradual process, but at the time that this happened, I wasn't really the cynic that I am today. So I remember the headlines. I remember the tide turning against him, the public, opinion and the news reporting turning against him. I remember that, and I remember falling for it because I was like, well, it must be true. Certainly the things that they were presenting about him looked quite suspicious. So he had been in trouble before for impersonating a police officer, because he would, like, at this college campus that he worked at, he would, like, pull people over on the road before they got to the campus because he was trying to stop people from, bringing drugs into the college. He went above and beyond, a little more than he should have in some cases, but certainly nothing awful. But it was definitely twisted that way in the media. And I remember, buying into it for quite a while. And that was me back then. I wouldn't fall for something that quickly now. I would have to, do more reading of the actual news article and other news articles, because a lot of times, a lot of people, they don't read the actual article. They just read the headline. That's what sticks in their brain. And that's what the press knows. So that's why they try to write headlines that are going to manipulate your thought process. Okay, guys, I can go on about this because it's something that really, really ticks me off. I've had my perception of things in the media completely twisted because that's what the media wanted you to believe. And then when you dig deeper, you find out that's not the case at all. They're being very unethical because they're either not reporting the facts accurately at all, or they're misrepresenting the facts. And the media has a lot of power, and they can destroy somebody, and they can falsely prop up somebody too. His attorney, played by Sam Rockwell, mentioned, and this shows in the trailer too, but he mentioned something about how that he's got the two most powerful forces in the United States against him, the federal government and the media. Something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing, but that's true. I mean, it's absolutely true. And this was a case where this fellow was absolutely completely innocent. He did nothing wrong. It was a miracle that it was that above and beyondness that he had that is probably what enabled him to be able to catch sight of this suspicious package, where most people maybe not would have noticed it. But because he was so determined to do his best and be a good law enforcement officer, he was like a security guard at the Olympics at the time. He noticed it, and people didn't believe him. And probably today, a lot of people still wouldn't believe him anyway, because most of the time it's not anything bad. But, he was very conscientious, and because of him, a lot of people, their lives were saved, because it could have been so much worse. And so it's amazing. And what I find particularly sad about this poor guy is that after everything was over, he didn't live a whole lot longer. He died in 2007, just 11 years after the events of the bombing. He was only 44. he was not a healthy man. It does show in here that he had, it seems like he's having some heart issues. He's not in good shape. He's obese. He doesn't eat good. And there was just so much stress on him at the time. There were, it was showing him like with his heart, and I'm like, and I thought maybe he was going to have a heart attack during this, but he didn't. But I think it was just kind of showing that he had health issues. So his mother, played by Kathy Bates, oh my goodness, she did phenomenal, you guys. She totally convinced you that she was his mother. The way she acted, just like a Richard Jewell mother seems like she would have acted. I mean, she was absolutely outstanding. Everybody was really good in here. She was good, even though she was terrible character. You just absolutely couldn't stand her. But I saw a review that Stuckman did about this, and one of his main complaints about the film was the way she acted. Like, she was like this total villain, and cackling and just over the top and all that. I don't know what the real reporter's personality was like, but yeah, it is true. It did feel a bit over the top, and I wonder if maybe if she'd been toned down a bit more and made to seem, not quite so vile. I mean, you still would have absolutely hated what she did, but if she had been smoothed out a little better and not been so abrasive, maybe that's really what she was like. But if she wasn't, bringing her down, calming down her character a bit, would have made her feel more human, and which would have sort of added a level of complexity to the whole story. Like, she's not totally bad. She just did this very unethical thing, whatever, yada yada. Sam Rockwell was really good as his attorney. John Hamm was, he was good. He's John Hamm. I mean, he's never really been an actor that has super impressed me. I've never really cared a whole lot for him. He just doesn't. He's kind of boring to me. I've never really been compelled to watch anything he's in just because he's in it. But, the main reason that I saw this movie is because I knew it was going to have a happy ending. But the journey there was gut-wrenching. It was so sad. And it's just even more tragic that he is gone. His mother is still alive, apparently, and I believe that probably Richard and his mother kept a pretty close relationship with this attorney. It does show that at the end of things, there had been a span of 6 years before they saw each other again. I don't know how accurate that was. That was at the time that Eric Rudolph, I think that was his name, Eric Rudolph, had confessed to being the one who bombed the Centennial Park. Now, when I did my reaction video to the trailer, I mistakenly thought it was the Unabomber. I was getting those two mixed up, but some people in the comments section reminded me who it was, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I just completely got it wrong. But at the end of the movie, they tell you that he died, and they tell you that, there's something that they mentioned that lets you know that Rudolph's mother and his attorney, his name was, Walton something, I remember for sure, that they still have contact with each other on a very regular basis. And so that's kind of sweet and touching. And I just feel so bad for this poor guy. I hate what he went through, and I hate what it did to his mother. She was so upset. They were coming in and taking stuff out of his house, and because he lived with her, taking her Tupperware, and she's like so upset, and she's following them outside, and she's crying, and the media's there, and it's just, it was so pitiful, you guys. It was so pitiful. I mean, that was tough. It was tough watching it. But anyway, what I had also been reading as far as the controversy about they had indicated that the controversy about the film is probably why it underperformed this weekend. They said that this was the worst opening for Clint Eastwood for his, films he's directed. This is the worst opening. And I find that really unfortunate because it is a movie that is definitely worth seeing. It's super relevant even today. And I think that everybody should watch this at least once, because, you know, it's very sobering to think about how the government and how the media can ruin an innocent person's life. And it's so unjust. And, you know, we have laws in place to protect us, but the feds and other law enforcement, they try to find ways to, you know, navigate around that and get by with things. And, you know, they can lie to you, but you can't lie to them, which is just, here I go again. Anyway, but another reason given for the possibility that this film underperformed was not necessarily just because of the controversy, but because maybe just a lot of people are apathetic. They don't care. And I find that, you know, kind of sad if that's the case. I also find it, you know, kind of sad that you know, maybe the controversy about the reporter is what stopped people from seeing it, because whether that's true or not, the fundamental story is pretty important, I think, for people to know more about, and to see everything that he went through, and to just, you know, put a little bit more cynicism in your brain about those in power and what they can do to you. And you know, I that's why I went to see it. I wanted to support the film. I had been planning to see it, but I didn't know when I was going to go see it. And since it didn't perform very good this past weekend, I decided that I would go see it sooner than later, because I didn't know how much longer it was really going to be in the theaters. I mean, it'll probably be in, you know, couple 3-4 more weeks or whatever, but I don't know. If a film does really, really bad, sometimes it is gone very quickly. So anyway, there's that. I feel like I have rambled quite a bit about this. I've been thinking a lot about this movie ever since I left the theater, and it's just weighed very heavily on me. I had to have a little bit of time to sort of kind of process and calm down a bit from it, because it really upset me a lot while I was watching it, and as it should upset anybody. But I do recommend this film. This was a movie that there is some audience and critic disparity between the scores, but it's, I mean, it's probably about maybe 20 points or close to it difference between. It's still rated fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, but the audience so far has given it, I think the last I saw it was like 94 or 95%, I believe. So, you know, regular folks like you and me, they like this, and I agree with them. I'm not sure that I could say, for me, that it would rate as high as a 95. I would say maybe like an 85%. I don't like to give numbers, but I do that sometimes just as a gauge for like, well, I agree with the audience, but I don't completely agree, you know, to that extent. But it's a super good film. If you're in the mood to get upset and sad, because it makes you equally upset and sad at the same time, like mad, pissed, and sad. These two emotions are just roiling inside you when you watch it, and but it's certainly worth a view. I love the dynamic between Sam Rockwell's character and Paul Walter Hauser, that's his name, the guy who played Richard Jewell. They had a really good dynamic going, and it was touching at times, their interactions with each other. And so yeah, I recommend it. Go see it if you have a chance to at least support it, you know, or honor the memory of poor Richard Jewell, and you know, think about him whenever you hear explosive and bombshell news reports. Just take a moment to read a little bit more, dig a little bit deeper, you know, think twice before you buy into what the media and what the government tells us. And that's my PSA for the day. Okay, you guys, I'm going to wrap this up for now. Bye.